Good evening, class. Today we are going to have a look at DC Universe Classics Wave 6 Hawkman, figure number 2 of 5. Well, I guess what, 6 or 7 technically, but we won't get into that too much. But we can have a quick look here at the packaging for Hawkman before we open him up. In there we can see an arm of Calabac, which is going to be excellent. Personally, I think Hawkman is pretty much the figure of the wave to get. I always liked Hawkman. I didn't know who he was when I had my first, what was it, Kenner Superpowers Hawkman, where the wings kind of flapped. So, you know, I had to get this one, just because it's awesome. So we look at the side of the packaging, we can see how much I paid for this. And we can see that it is supposed to be, was it the right arm? And shows you a picture of it, just in case you can't see it down there. And on the back, again, kind of a trend I'm doing here, some of the other figures. Mr. Miracle, Hawkman, Killer Moth, Superman in his black costume, and Shazam. And we put all them together and we get this nasty dude looking guy called Calabac. So for Hawkman, during ancient Egypt's 15th dynasty, Prince was at Khufu, sure, and his beloved Princess Shayera discovered a downed spacecraft from the planet Thanagar. Exposure to the ship's anti-gravity nth metal allowed Khufu and Shayera to be reincarnated countless times throughout the ages to follow. In modern times, Khufu became the hero Hawkman, and Shayera was reincarnated as his beloved Hawk Girl. You notice it's Hawkman and Hawk Girl, not Hawk Woman. What's with that? And how is it that there's so many guys? He must be a product of like the 50s or something. Oh, sorry, 40s. Where it's always radiation. Bitten by a radioactive spider. Exposed to alien radiation. Radiation kills him. Blah, blah, blah. Ah, okay. So, quick look at the side here. Again, same thing as we had over here, except without a sticker in the way. I think that's a good look at our packaging for Hawkman. I'm gonna rip this packaging open, thus making it no longer mint, and then we'll have a closer look at the figure itself. Be back in a second. Thank you all for your patience. You know, it was a whole transition of what, 1 or 2 seconds? But now we're back, and we've got Hawkman out of his packaging so we can have a closer look at him. Now, I have to say I'm really impressed with this figure. I've always had a soft spot for Hawkman. I've always liked him, and this figure does not disappoint. So just with a quick view of him first. Ooh, look at that. It's pointy. We can talk about him first. Now, his coloring, well, I guess what we would expect from a traditional kind of Hawkman. We've got the yellow bands across his chest and his upper body's, you know, skin colored, which is nice. We've got, I don't know how well I'm going to be able to show it here, but we've actually got 2 colors of kind of the orange for his head. Most of the cowl or the helmet or hood, if we want to call it that, plus I guess the beak of the hawk is actually a separate color, which is kind of nice. And if we look, I don't know how well we can see it, but the wings on the sides of his head, they are the same orange, but they have little white highlights or grayish highlights on the side there, which is a really nice touch. Gives it a little more detail. He is one of those ones who does color his underpants differently than the rest of his pants and wears them on the outside. So we've got the red on his boots, and the rest of him is green. Even though he's got the same colors as Mr. Miracle, for some reason they're not as obnoxious on this figure. I'm not sure why. Anyways, here we've got his mace, which looks good. We got the silver and the kind of the brown color for the handle. On his shield, we've got the hawk symbol, but we can see this shield has been through some abuse, which is kind of cool. And even the hawk emblem looks kind of textured there, which is very nice. His wings are amazing. Somebody spent a lot of time sculpting the wings on this figure, and they are very, very good. We'll get more into the articulation as we get closer to it, but it's like it's all kind of one, I think, solid gray color with white highlights on it. It looks really good. Probably the best I've seen Hawkman wings, and this goes back to the old, was it Kenner Superpower figures, which is probably where I first really started to like Hawkman. So in terms of articulation, well, he's going to be like a lot of the other DC figures. His head is going to go all the way around, and it can go up and down a little bit because it's on a ball joint. His arms, going to move the wings out of the way, same thing, are going to go all the way around, up and down. He's going to have the rotation at the tricep, bicep there. Whoa, look at that. The elbow bends, and the wrist rotates. The hand rotates at the wrist. We've got the up and down motion here, which seems like all the DC figures have. And then his waist will turn. I'm sure it'll go all the way around like most of the other ones. The legs, you know what? It seems to be the lower half of most figures is more or less the same. So we can go forwards and backwards. That joint here at the hip, or sorry, at the waist, I guess the hips. And then they can go sideways, even though it looks kind of horrible doing that. We can rotate the leg at the thigh. Whoa. You've got one joint there for the knee, and we've got a joint here at the ankle. Now actually, whoa, there's some bonus articulation here, don't you forget it. On his back, we've got his wings. How could I forget his wings? He's Hawkman. We can see there's these extra bits on his back. There and there. It's probably where that little peg where the most capes are supposed to go, but instead we've got a joint here, a hinge I suppose for the wings, and they are separate. It's kind of garish having it there like that, but you know what, that's okay, we can live with that. And each wing has a little bit of movement on its own, so it can fan out. We can go up pretty high, but that would be kind of silly. Maybe even that high. Probably there is good enough. But then we can put them back kind of in a rest position. So that's very nice. We can do lots of things with his wings. Now in terms of his accessories, he does have a number of them, which is nice. He's got the typical mace, or the character mace, or whatever, what we expect from Hawkman. It doesn't sit in his hand too well. It does kind of slide a little bit, but he does have a firm grip on it. We're not afraid of losing it. The shield does in fact come off. Now if I grab this figure, we can see if I can wrest the shield off of him without breaking it. There we go. Now what I just flipped off there, I don't know if anyone saw, it's one of those little clear elastics that seem to, you know, hold figures together and in packages and stuff. And that is on the two ends of the shield here that holds it onto his wrist. So now that I've taken that off, we can just pop it off. Probably the way I'll be keeping this figure is with the shield on and with the rubber bands holding it in place. I just want to make sure they stay that way, because those little rubber bands are good for that. Usually once you take it off, you'll never get it back on, but I have managed to before. And he also has this sword. Now, I don't remember Hawkman having a sword. I don't have a problem with it. But I don't know how well you can see on camera, but even there you can see it's been beaten up. The sword has gotten some use. So we can get rid of the mace, and we can give him his sword here, which he can then cut people down with. You know what's weird though? I just don't like Hawkman with a sword. It doesn't seem right to me. Hawkman should have a mace. So while it's cool, I think that's going to stay in its little sheath back here and let him hold on to his mace. Now, let's see if I can get that back in there. I had problems once before. Come on. There we go. There. It's his smash 'em stick. It's awesome. Now, whoa, don't fall over, don't fall over. Good enough. Now, Hawkman also comes with a piece of Calabac, and he comes with the right arm, which we'll look at here. We're not going to look at it too much now. I was talking before with Mr. Miracle about how Calabac seems to have really stumpy legs and really long arms. Well, you can see how big the arm is. It's half as big as Hawkman is himself. Compare that to the leg we just looked at, and we can see we're going to have kind of a monkey figure here, because the arm is just excessively huge compared to the foot. But we've got that. I mean, it looks cool. We'll look at this more once we assemble Calabac, which we'll do later on. I have to say, Hawkman is probably the figure from the wave I would pick up, even if I wasn't looking to build Calabac. He's excellent. The figure itself has a lot of character. I love the fact how well done the wings are. It's something they could have cheaped out on, but they didn't. He's got some decent accessories. I mean, he's got the kind of typical articulation you'd expect from a DCU figure. I gotta say, he's pretty good. If I was gonna give this figure a rating, which I will because it's what I do, he gets a solid A. He's excellent. He's one of those ones that, you know, you kind of change figures on display. This one gets to stay out most of the time because he's very excellent. So I would definitely recommend picking him up because he's cool. So anyways, I think that is our review of Hawkman from DC Universe Classics, the Calabac Wave. Catch me back for another review or two from the figures from this wave. We're going to keep going, and eventually we will build Calabac. So, come back later. Thanks, and have a good night. Class is dismissed.